Hi Reddit, I'm Ryan, 35M. Until a few nights ago, I thought I was engaged to the love of my life, and now I'm just trying to figure out who the hell I was actually dating. Let me back it up. I met Brittany 3 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. She was loud, sarcastic, and funny as hell. I was the quiet guy in the corner, nursing a beer and trying not to look like I hated everyone. She walked up to me and said, "You look like you're mentally screaming." I laughed, that was it. We started dating a month later, and she moved in after 6. Fast forward to now, we're engaged. The wedding was 6 months away, the dress bought, the venue booked, deposits down. My parents were thrilled, hers, a little less so. They always looked at me like I was the fallback guy. I ignored it. Mistake number 1, I'm not rich, but I've got a solid job in IT, own a condo, and have decent savings. Brittany, on the other hand, has bounced between freelance gigs and launching a brand for years. I supported her gladly, I believed in her. I covered rent some months, helped her buy a new laptop, paid for most of the wedding stuff. I didn't mind, that's what you do for someone you love, right? Apparently not. Last Friday, she was in the shower. Her phone buzzed next to me on the couch, a group chat from girls at her old marketing job. Usually I'd ignore it, I'm not the type to snoop. But one message preview popped up that said, "Does Ryan still think you're marrying him out of love?" I froze. I don't know what got into me, maybe instinct, maybe rage, maybe fear, but I opened the phone. And what I saw, I swear, made my whole body go cold. The group chat was brutal. Brittany, he's just a buffer, the supportive face every girl needs. Another friend, OMG, stop. Brittany, exactly, after the trauma guy and before the real one, Ryan equals stabilizer, money bag, credit card, nail polish. Then there was one message which felt like a dagger, "He's not the one, he's just the one that helps me get to the one." I couldn't breathe. She wasn't venting, she wasn't joking, she was crafting a strategy. A few more scrolls and I found them talking about my job, my family, even our wedding. One message said, "He's covering most of it, which is great for else to split when I'm out." It was clear, she was already planning her exit before the "I do" was even said. I sat there in silence, wishing I could say I exploded, yelled, stormed out, but all I felt was this sinking weight in my stomach, like someone had pulled the ground out from under me. I was free falling through the realization that I'd been living a lie. When she came out of the bathroom, towel on her head, humming some pop song, I looked at her and I didn't even see her anymore. Just a stranger smiling, drying her hair, planning a future without me, funded by me. I didn't confront her that night, instead, I acted like everything was normal. I ate dinner, watched Netflix, slept next to her because I needed time to think, to plan, to not explode. If I was going to walk away, I wasn't going to do it while still looking like the temporary wallet. The next day, I took a personal day from work. First, I went to the bank and froze our joint savings account. Second, I called the wedding venue and asked how much of the deposit was refundable. Third, I talked to a friend, a lawyer, and asked what I needed to do to protect my condo since I'd foolishly added Brittany to some documents when we got engaged. Spoiler, another mistake. That night, I told her I had a guy's night. She smiled and said, "Have fun, babe. Love you." I didn't say it back. I drove around for hours, sat in a parking lot eating gas station jerky, staring at the screenshots I'd sent to myself from that group chat, and I kept asking one question: how did I not see this coming? The answer was simple: I didn't want to. I thought if I loved her enough, supported her enough, and believed in her enough, she meant it when she said she loved me back. But she didn't, she just loved the comfort, the stability, the safety net. She loved what I did for her, not who I was to her. I didn't sleep that night. My brain kept replaying her messages, the laughing emojis, the way she used my name as if I were just a placeholder, a wallet, a stabilizer. That word echoed in my head like a sick joke. I watched her sleep next to me, peacefully, as if nothing was wrong, like she wasn't building a life funded by me, without me in it. The next morning, she made coffee and acted like everything was fine. She even showed me a stupid meme about a dog wearing glasses, giggling like nothing had happened. I just smiled and said, "That's funny," even though what I really wanted to say was, "Can't wait to see you try to pay for Wi-Fi," with sarcasm. But I kept it cool. If I was going to walk out of this, I was going to do it strong, not screaming. Step 1. I went to the bank. I pulled almost all the money from our joint savings account, leaving her a clean $100, just enough to make her think everything was fine, until it wasn't. Step 2. I met with my buddy Eric, who happens to be an excellent lawyer. I explained everything, the texts, the fake love setup. His response? She's on your property documents, man. We're fixing that today. He helped me file the paperwork to remove her name from my condo title. Nothing shady, just legally correcting a mistake before a marriage that clearly wasn't happening anymore. That evening, Brittany came home wearing a new cashmere sweater and a smug little smile, as if she'd just manifested luxury with her energy. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "I don't know how I got so lucky with you." I smiled back, thinking, yeah, me neither. Later, when she was curled up in bed with her laptop, I sat down beside her. My heart was pounding. I looked her dead in the eyes and asked, "Do you think it's okay to call your fiancé a temporary wallet in a group chat?" Her entire body tensed. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, trying to spin it. It was just stupid girl talk, I didn't mean it. I didn't know how to stop her. I said, "You were so good to me, and I felt guilty." I panicked, "So you planned a wedding with me and joked about what you'd get out of the divorce?" Her lip trembled. "I know I messed up," she whispered, "but I really do love you." I stared at her. You know, it was messed up. A part of me, a sick, stupid part, wanted to believe her, to go, "Okay, you were scared, I get it. Let's fix this." But then I remembered, her insurance is decent. Maybe I could get a baby out of it before I bailed. I stood up. "I'm not your wallet. I'm not your stepping stone. And I sure as hell am not your insurance plan." She started crying. "Please Ryan, don't do this, I don't want to lose you." This was just me being insecure. I listened, nodded, but I didn't say yes, because I'd seen too much. She tried everything, cooked dinner, cleaned the place obsessively, even wore the hoodie she'd stolen from me in year 1, you know, the one I still call yours sometimes. Every time she said "I love you," it sounded like a pitch, like a presentation on why I should invest another year in a startup that already filed for bankruptcy. And worst of all, she still wasn't telling me the whole truth. On Sunday, I caught her whispering on the phone in the hallway. I was in the bedroom with the door cracked. She didn't know I could hear her. "No, he doesn't know about that part, I'm just trying to keep him calm until I figure out what to do," she said. I stepped out mid-call. She froze. I didn't say a word, just looked her dead in the eyes. She ended the call quickly, pretended it was her mom, and said, "He's just worried about me. He thinks I'm falling apart." "You are," I replied. "But not in the way you think." She opened her mouth to speak, but I walked past her and out the door that night. I texted my friend Dylan, who works in cyber forensics. I told him I needed to recover deleted messages off Brittany's phone, stuff she'd likely wiped after I found that group chat. He sent me a few tools, nothing illegal, just text-savvy software. The next day, while Brittany was running errands, I used a backup from her old iCloud login. She'd once used it on my laptop and never removed the auto-login. What I found made my stomach turn, more chats, not just with her friends, but with a guy named Blake. I remembered him from her branding project last summer. Back then, she said he was helping her launch a consulting venture. They had Zoom calls, meetings, late-night brainstorming sessions. She swore it was just grind culture. It turns out Blake wasn't just a business partner. He was the real plan. Their chat started with strategy and ended with heart emojis and subtle sexting. Nothing too explicit, but enough to show he wasn't just helping her find her brand, he was her exit plan. One message from 2 months ago read, "Once the wedding's done and your accounts are merged, we can finally breathe. Can't wait to build something real." Another said, "Another Ryan will be fine, he's dependable, he'll land on his feet." I sat there, reading and rereading, pulse pounding. It wasn't just betrayal, it was long-term, premeditated betrayal. She wasn't confused or scared, she was strategizing. I was the safety net until she could jump to Blake. I didn't confront her that night. I waited, watched her pretend to care, listened to her fake concern about how cold I'd become, observed how her eyes flicked toward her phone every few minutes as if she was waiting for instructions. I slept like a baby. The next morning, I made her breakfast. She looked surprised when I brought her eggs and toast. "You made this?" she asked cautiously. "Yeah, thought I'd do something nice," I replied. She looked as if she wanted and needed to believe me. "Are we okay?" she asked slowly. I smiled as she ate, then silently packed her stuff. Efficiently. She didn't realize it until I rolled the suitcase into the living room. "What is this?" she asked, standing up. "Your exit strategy activated?" She went pale. "I saved it," I said. I read the messages, all of them. Her mouth opened and closed in disbelief. "You're going to merge our accounts and dip with your backup plan? That was the play, right?" Tears filled her eyes. It wasn't real. It was real enough to plan it, to talk about it, to string me along while you kept one eye on your next upgrade. She started crying again. "I didn't," she begged. "You did that the moment I turned you into a group chat joke." I replied, "I'm just taking out the trash." I left the room while she was still crying. I didn't slam the door or yell, I just walked away. And you know what? For the first time in years, I felt quiet inside. Brittany didn't move out by Friday, of course she didn't. Instead, she played the role of a repentant fiancé as if it were an Oscar nomination. She stayed up late crying, left notes on my pillow, made coffee every morning, with my coffee order, not hers, even tried to initiate a serious talk on the couch where she once laughed about me behind my back. "Ryan, please don't throw this away. I know I messed up, but I can fix it. I swear I can fix it." I listened and nodded, but I never said yes, because I'd seen too much. She tried everything, cooked dinner, cleaned the place aggressively, even wore the hoodie she'd stolen from me in our first year together, the one I still sometimes call ours. Yet every time she said "I love you," it sounded like a pitch, a presentation on why I should invest another year in a failing startup. And worst of all, she still wasn't telling me the whole truth. Then on Sunday, I caught her whispering on the phone in the hallway. I was in the bedroom with the door cracked. She didn't know I could hear. "No, he doesn't know about that part, I'm just trying to keep him calm until I figure out what to do," I stepped out mid-call. She froze. I didn't say anything, just looked her dead in the eyes. She ended the call quickly, pretending it was her mom, saying, "He's just worried about me. He thinks I'm falling apart." "You are," I said. "But not in the way you think." She opened her mouth to speak, but I walked past her and out the door that night. I texted my friend Dylan, my cyber forensics guy, and told him I needed to recover deleted messages off Brittany's phone, stuff she'd likely wiped after I found that group chat. A few tools later, while she was out, I used an old backup from her iCloud account. What I found made my stomach churn, more chats, not just with her friends, but with a guy named Blake. Their messages weren't just business talk, they were planning an exit. One message from 2 months ago said, "Once the wedding's done and our accounts are merged, we can finally breathe. Can't wait to build something real." Another read, "Another Ryan will be fine, he's dependable, he'll land on his feet." I sat there reading, pulse pounding. This wasn't accidental, it was long-term, premeditated betrayal. She wasn't confused or scared, she was strategizing. I was merely the safety net until she could jump to Blake. I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I waited, watched her pretend to care, listened to her feigned concern about how cold I'd become, and observed how her eyes flicked to her phone every few minutes as if she was waiting for instructions. I slept like a baby. The next morning, I made her breakfast. She looked surprised when I brought her eggs and toast. "You made this?" she asked cautiously. "Yeah, thought I'd do something nice," I replied. She looked as if she wanted and needed to believe me. "Are we okay?" she asked slowly. I smiled as she ate, then silently packed her stuff. Efficiently. She didn't realize it until I rolled the suitcase into the living room. "What is this?" she asked, standing up. "Your exit strategy activated?" She went pale. I saved it. I read all the messages. Her mouth opened and closed in disbelief. You're going to merge our accounts and dip with your backup plan? That was the play, right? Tears filled her eyes. It wasn't real, it was real enough to plan it, to talk about it, to string me along while you kept one eye on your next upgrade. She started crying again. Please, Ryan, don't do this. I know I messed up, but I can fix it. I lost myself, but I love you, I really do. I looked her dead in the eyes. A part of me, a sick, foolish part, wanted to believe her. I almost said, okay, you were scared, I get it. Let's fix this. But then I remembered, her insurance is decent. Maybe I could get a baby out of it before I bailed. I stood up. I'm not your wallet, Brittany. I'm not your stepping stone. And I'm certainly not your insurance plan. She began crying again. Please, Ryan, don't do this, I don't want to lose you, she pleaded. I paused, then said, revenge is loud, closure is quiet. I'm not trying to ruin your life, I'm just trying to reclaim mine. I reminded her that trust isn't something you give away because someone smiles at you, it's something you guard until they prove they deserve it. That night, I helped her carry her bags down to the Uber I had called. She asked if she could hug me goodbye. I said no. Standing there in the driveway, tears streaming down her face, she clutched her phone like it was a weapon. I turned and walked back inside, shut the door, and this time, locked it. The morning after I kicked Brittany out was peaceful for the first time in months. The apartment felt still, no passive-aggressive clinking of dishes, no fake smiles during deep work sessions, no random Amazon packages arriving with things she never mentioned. I made my own breakfast, ate it while watching the sunrise over the city skyline from my little balcony. I wasn't sad or angry, I was just clear, like I'd finally wiped months of fog off a mirror and could see myself again. Over the next few days, I cleaned out the apartment, both physically and emotionally. I got rid of all her junk, canceled the wedding vendors, and even returned the tux I hadn't tried on. I called my mom and told her what happened. After a long silence, she said, I'm proud of you. That hit me harder than anything Brittany ever said. 3 days after I kicked her out, I got a message from an unknown number. Hey Ryan, I think we should talk. I owe you that much. It was Blake. At first, I stared at the screen like, who the hell does this guy think he is? But curiosity won, so I responded, talk about what? My ex-fiancé or your career in being a human red flag? He replied instantly, fair, just give me 5 minutes. I'll come over. No games. Normally, a week ago, I would have said no, blocked the number, and moved on. But I wasn't the same guy anymore, so I said, fine, but 5 minutes only. And one slick word, and I'll toss you over the railing. He showed up that afternoon, a mid-30s average guy in designer jeans, well-groomed, the kind who uses expensive cologne and actually reads book blurbs before posting them on Instagram. We sat on opposite ends of my couch. He didn't look smug or posture, he looked uncomfortable. First of all, he said, I didn't know she was with you when we first started talking. I raised an eyebrow. I'm serious, he said. She told me you were fading out, that you weren't sleeping together, that you were basically roommates with a ring. I didn't respond, I just wanted to hear where this was going. He continued, she wanted out but didn't know how, and then she mentioned your accounts, the wedding, the condo, and I started realizing she had no intention of ending things clean. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, I ended it 3 weeks ago. I paused, trying to process that. Before I could ask more, he handed me a flash drive. What's this? I asked. He hesitated. Screenshots, voice memos, everything she sent me, he explained. I figured you might want to know everything. I took the drive. He stood up and said at the door, you deserve better. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I knew what I was walking out of. I didn't open the flash drive for 2 days, something inside me was afraid that if I did, I'd fall back into the chaos, the sadness, the version of me who always tried to understand her instead of protecting himself. Eventually, I opened it. What I heard changed everything. The screenshots were damning conversations about playing me, about debating how long she should wait after the wedding before easing out, calculated stuff. But it was the voice memo that made my skin crawl. It was Brittany's voice giggling, saying things like, "No, he has no clue. I mean, he thinks we're planning this wedding together, but honestly, it's just a warm-up round. I can't marry a guy who calls grilled cheese his signature meal. I need someone who doesn't own Crocs." Then she added, "But he's sweet. He worships me." It's actually kind of addicting, like being loved by a Labrador with a paycheck. I didn't cry. I didn't rage, I just closed the file and smiled. Because now I had everything, not just proof, but leverage. I didn't want revenge, not really, I just wanted to make damn sure no one else ever got played the way I did. The next morning, I sent Brittany one message: "Listen to your voice memo, that was cute. I'll let you know if your next employer wants a character reference." 5 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. Then came the texts, apologies, explanations, threats, guilt, more apologies, and then she blocked me. I emailed the venue and asked to redirect the deposit to a charity for women recovering from emotional abuse. It felt symbolic. I cancelled our wedding website and replaced the main page with "Event cancelled, groom upgraded." Petty? Maybe. But it felt amazing. I started posting car videos again, fixed up an old Mustang that had been sitting in the shop for months, and even got a few offers from auto influencers who loved my calm chaos story. It turns out people love a man who walks away with receipts in hand. It's been 5 weeks since I kicked Brittany out. No more crying on the floor, no more messages from friends asking if I'm okay, no more waking up wondering if I'm being used, lied to, or set up to be a stepping stone for someone else's better life. For the first time in years, I wake up knowing exactly who I am and, more importantly, who I'm not. Brittany tried everything: emails, burner numbers, voicemails through her mom's phone, even sent a handwritten letter like we were in some tragic Netflix romance. The letter was the worst of it, page after page of apologies. "I never meant to hurt you, I lost myself, you were the best thing that ever happened to me." It almost got to me until I remembered the voice memo: "He's like a Labrador with a paycheck." That sentence locked the vault every time I thought about softening. And so the vault stayed sealed. I never responded, not because I was angry, but because I was done. Some endings don't need fireworks, they just need silence. A week later, I had lunch with Mark, my manager. He'd heard about the cancelled wedding. "Tough break," he said. I told them a very sanitized version: "She cheated, long-term plan, used you." Mark shook his head. "You handled it cleaner than most guys would have." And he was right. I never posted the screenshots online, never exposed her to our mutual friends, never sent a voice memo to her parents even though I could have. But here's the thing: revenge is loud, closure is quiet. I wasn't trying to ruin her life, I was trying to reclaim mine. Instead of trashing her online, I told my story without her name. I posted just the truth, no bitterness, no victim energy. I shared the heartbreak and reflection. It blew up, and people resonated with it. Some were angry for me, others shared their own wallet phase stories. One guy even said I saved him from proposing to his girlfriend the next day. That hit hard. Then something unexpected happened. A woman, let's call her Sophia, messaged me. No flirty emojis, no "hey stranger," just, "Your story hit way too close. If you ever want to grab coffee and talk to someone who's been through the same thing, my treat." I sat on that message for 2 days, not because I wasn't interested, but because I wasn't sure if I was ready to let someone in again, even casually. Eventually, I replied, "Sure. We met at a coffee shop last weekend." She was calm, grounded, funny in a quiet, observant way. She told me her ex drained her emotionally and financially while pretending to be her protector. Sounded different from my situation, but it felt exactly the same. We talked for 2 hours. Not once did either of us ask about jobs, salaries, status, or Instagram handles. It was just two people who had been cracked open by betrayal and were figuring out how to rebuild without resentment. We've texted since, no plans, no pressure, just a few "hope your day is going okay" messages. It's nice, it feels human. As for Brittany? Last I heard, she tried reconnecting with Blake. Spoiler, he ghosted her hard. Once the fantasy crumbled and reality set in, he remembered that he liked her in screenshots, not in real life. She tried moving back in with her parents, but they weren't exactly thrilled. Her mom even once asked if I could talk to her to help her find closure. I didn't respond. Brittany didn't need me for closure, she needed a mirror. I still keep that flash drive, not as a threat, not as evidence, but as a reminder that trust isn't something you give away because someone smiles at you. It's something you guard until they prove it's worth it. So here's where I'll end this: if you're out there feeling like you're just the stabilizer, the quiet provider, the steady hand everyone relies on but no one chooses, don't stay where you're only tolerated because you're scared to be alone. Alone isn't empty, alone is clean, like the soil before something real can grow. Brittany called me her wallet, her stepping stone, because I cashed out and walked away richer than ever, just not in the way she measured.